All right. So we are going to talk about environment setup and some basic topics in JavaScript. All right. And then during this class, if you have any question, always make sure you just put it on the chat section, right? So I'll see it there and I'll be able to address question. Okay. All right. So let's see what we would be talking about today. So see how we would download and install, and also how to use the environment, right? The NodeJs environment, how to also use VS Code, everything about how to use an environment, okay? Then I would also talk about maybe some productivity tool, okay? So apart from writing code, there are other tools you can use to maybe jot down some few points. If you don't have a pen and paper, of course you must have that. But then you can also do that online too. And then I'll talk about JavaScript variables. Okay, we'll see how variables are being used, and then after talking about JavaScript variables, we are going to talk about JavaScript data types. Okay, and then from in that data types, I know someone asked in our last class, what is a string, what is a number or array, all those stuffs, right? Label, um, all those are under data types. Okay, so we are going to see what different kinds of data types we have in JavaScript. Then we also talk about reserved words. So I'm sure you must have heard about reserved words, right? If you've not heard about it, it's fine. We would also know what reserved words mean, how they are being used, and the rest of those. Okay. Okay, so for this lesson, we will talk about what VS Code, right? What VS Code, Node.js, Git, and Bash, Git or Git Bash, and then what Replit is used for. Okay, so I think I talked about Replit before. So VS Code is where you're going to write your code, right? VS Code is an IDE. Some people say it's a code editor, right? Anyone, it's fine. You can call it a code editor or an IDE, right? Then Node.js is where, after typing your code, you need a place where you can run it, okay? So Node.js will be that that runtime environment your where you can test your JavaScript code, where you can execute your JavaScript code. Okay. Then Git and Git Bash. Okay, so there is what is called Git, and then Git Bash is for mainly for Windows users, people that can't install Git using terminal, so they have to download it and open the file the Git file they've downloaded. So I think Git Bash still exists. So you can use Git Bash for Git, and people also ask, what is Git, right? So Git is a version control uh, technology. So it helps uh, it helps you track different versions of your file, right? So if you come today, let's say you have 20 files, you modify those files, right? You want to take snapshots of those files, those individual files, right? So let me before Git, before Git, let me talk about the manual way of tracking a file's version. Okay, so uh, let's say let me open my let me open up my VS Code for you guys to see something. I want to make a little illustration of how version control tracking works manually, and then what Git has come to Git and GitHub has helped us do. Okay. Okay, so let me share that. Let me share my screen. Share. I hope you can see my VS Code. So I'll just create. Let me not even name it a JS file. Let me keep it as a text file. Let's say my poem.txt. Let me use a simple thing as a poem. Okay, so if we were supposed to track different versions of my poem, this is what I would do. I'll say my poem underscore view1, right? Then let me think of a little poem, maybe twinkle twinkle little star, how I wonder, oh yeah, wonder what you are. Let's say that, like, let me try to use version control, but I'm not using a software. I'm trying to do it manually. So this is where I stop on this point. Let's say on on let's say on today, for example. Then tomorrow I come back and I want to add some more lines to this same point, right? But I don't want to modify the current version. I want to have another version of the same poem. So this is what I would manually come to do if I want to track that poem. I would come and do something like V2 and now say, okay, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Then I'll now come and say, up above the world, world so high, like a diamond in the sky. So I have two different versions of my poem, right? I have the one that just stops at twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Then I have the second version, right? Maybe after this day that I did this second version, um, I'm happy, I go away, I come back maybe another day, I come and look at this poem and I decide that um, I want to change something on this poem, right? So that would mean me having another version, right? Version 3. Then this version 3, I'll say um, maybe written by Victor Victor Peter, for example, right? So I have three different versions of the same poem, but this is just me having just one file, right? And I have three different versions of that file. What if I had like 20 files and I was working on those 20 files simultaneously each time I I come to work on this particular maybe folder or this particular project? Let's call this maybe my poem project, right? That would mean me having a lot of different files with different versions scattered everywhere, right? But then having this kind of thing, different versions of your file helps you in one thing. It helps you track the different versions of your file. Okay, it helps you track, but it's also not really convenient because you have a lot of files you're not using. But then Git helps you do this kind of a thing. But then what Git does is Git doesn't replicate the files for you, right? Git just when you commit your changes to Git kinds of takes a snapshot of the state of your file at that particular time. Then when you come and edit that file and you commit it again to Git now takes another snapshot of that file. So a snapshot is just like saving the state of that file. It's just like we could compare this to photography, but photography for files. So all these files take selfie. with Git each time that they change, right? So, but you're the one that is going to do that. You take them to what is called a staging area, and you issue a command to let Git know that you want to take a snapshot of this file, and then Git takes a snapshot of this file, and Git also handles the different versions of this file. So that's how version control works. So instead of having all this, right, I could just have one file, but then I can roll back my file to a previous version, right? Maybe the last two versions of my file, I could roll it back using Git, and I'm doing the rest. So that's how Git actually works. Okay. Then let's continue. So um, let me share this other slide. Okay. So let me reshare my screen so that you would see the slide. Okay, so I talked about how you install VS Code, and for people that were not in that class, I'm going to do it again. Okay, so let me share that particular tab. Okay, so if you want to download VS Code, you can just search on your search engine. I use DuckDuckGo. So you can just search on VS Code download, right? And if you don't want to search and you just want to write the full website, it is at code.visualstudio.com/download. When you come here and you click download, you see how to download for different versions, right? If you're using Windows 10, Windows 11, you can use this, and then um, you would see the different versions here, the different version of your system, right? So if you click here, it will auto detect, it will try to automatically maybe detect, or should I say guess, the architecture of your system, and then it is going to then download the file. But if you want a specific version, like maybe a 64-bit version or a 32 bits, which is this x86, right? Or this other one, ARM64, anyone, right? You can just come here and click, and then it's also, you also see the file format. If you want it as .zip, if you want the binary, system installer, user install, I think most times you use this user installer, or you just click this button. The same thing with guys on Linux, just click .deb or .rpm based on what Linux version or what Linux distribution you're using, right? Then for Mac OS, this is where you guys would use. So you download it, then after downloading it, you can install it using, I think Linux users can install using apt. So you just type sudo apt install, then you write the name of the file or the path to the file, right? So let me just use mine for example, although I have it already. Maybe I click on Debian and maybe it starts downloading later on. Code dot whatever. It shows a dialog for me to save um, what I want to download, right? Although I'm not going to download it because I don't have it. Sorry, I already have it. So there's no need for me downloading that. But that's how you download it, right? Just click on it and then follow the procedure to install it. All right, then the same thing for Node.js, right? So if you want to download Node.js, you can just search Node.js download, and then the first link that comes up would be what you're looking for. Or you can just search, you can go to the website directly, nodejs.org/en/download. right? If you come here, the same thing, just go for the current version, right? Don't LTS actually means long-term support, right? So, but I recommend you go for the latest version, and then you choose your operating system type, right? Architecture type. It could be 32-bit, 64-bit, or ARM64. Then after that, you download it. Okay. Then for mostly for Linux users, yes, you can download the binary or the Linux binary for either 64-bit version or the ARM, right? You can do that and then install it. For Linux users, I'm sure you should know how to install it if you're on Linux, right? So that's not much of an issue. Okay, so I hope the nobody has any question, right? Everybody, we are on the same page. Okay.
Yes, we are.
All right. Cool. So let's continue. All right. So for Git Bash, so Git Bash is just like it's similar to terminal. But if you search for Git Bash, you see Git download. You see Git for Windows, right? So um, I think we should go for Git for Windows. Can you guys still see my screen? Oh, you can't see my screen anymore. Okay. I'll share it now. I'll share it again. Okay, so um, this is gitforwindows.org. This is where you can download Git for Windows, right? So I don't actually use a Windows laptop. So a Windows operating system. I use a Linux operating system. Okay, so I can't really download this from here. But for Linux users, right? For Linux users, I think you just need to run a command to install it. I think sudo apt install git. You should install git for you. Okay. So for Linux users, right? For Linux users, just go to your terminal. Let me launch my terminal and show you guys what to do. Okay. So for the terminal for Linux users, you can write sudo apt install git, and I'm sure that is going to work. And then if you want to confirm if your git installed properly, you just type git dash dash version. So it is going to show you a similar version, git version 2.25.1. That's for me. Yours might be different. It might not be the same version, right? Okay. With that said, let's still continue. Okay, we are back here. I talked about Replit, right? Replit.com. I said you can use it to run your JavaScript or any other programming language, right? You can use it to do your front end with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the rest, right? But it is not a prerequisite. What is a prerequisite for this class is your VS Code, your Node.js, and then Git Bash too. And then you need to also install, you install Git Bash, and then you need to have an account with GitHub, okay? So there's a difference between Git and GitHub. I know a lot of people also ask that question. What is GitHub and what is Git? Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about that now. So GitHub, or let me start from Git. Git is a version control software, right? Which you run on your laptop, right? You run your Git on your laptop. You install it, run it, take snapshots of your file and everything. Okay. Then GitHub is a website that has Git running on its background. Okay. Now you can do the same thing you do on GitHub, on GitHub too. You can commit your code. Committing is just the same thing as saving code, but in um, Git you call it committing. Okay, you can commit your code to Git to you can also do commit your code on GitHub, right? You can pull your code from GitHub, which is the website, to Git, which is on your system, right? You can also push you can push code too that is on your system online. So notice the terms there. Pushing is kind of uploading your the code, right, or your files from Git to GitHub. Meanwhile, pulling is um, down is like saying downloading your code from GitHub to Git. Okay, so those two terms are really important to know. They are really important. Don't mix them up. If you mix them up, then you might like have issues like trying to understand when someone says push or pull. You might have issues understanding what the person means. Okay, so you have push, pull. Then GitHub allows for collaboration. Okay, so people that work remotely as developers mainly use GitHub. There's also Bitbucket and other services that does version control too. But Git and GitHub, they are more popular. They are very popular, right? Okay, so we've talked more about that. We are going to also talk more about that later on. Then introduction to some productivity tools. Okay, so you can use these productivity tools to draw diagrams or take notes of um, maybe little things, right? So that's if you don't have a notebook close to you, right? You can use any of these to take notes. Okay, this guy said this. Okay, he for example, the links that I mentioned in class, right? Maybe if you don't have a pen and paper close to you, right? You can use Dropbox paper. So if you search online for Dropbox paper, you sign up with their accounts, you can create what kind of papers online, right? Or the papers there just is just a fancy name for an environment where you can just type text, right? And you can also add pictures to your paper and the rest. The same thing with Zoho Notebook, but Zoho Notebook is more like Zoho Notebook allows you to manage more notes, more than one note. So you can create a book, right? A book that has different pages on Zoho Notebook. You can check that out. Then draw.io, drawio.com, sorry, drawio.com is used to draw diagrams. So um, if there is something you need to visually maybe represent, that you know that just saying it or trying to remember it by just typing it in words is going to be difficult for you, you can use drawio.com to maybe draw a diagram that has to do with maybe a concept, so that if you come back and you see that diagram, you can um, understand maybe that concept that was explained or that concept you were trying to explain to someone and the rest. Okay, I hope there is no question on what I've been talking about since. Okay, so someone is asking, Mr. Victor is asking if I can re-explain push and pull. Okay, that's with GitHub and Git. Okay, all right. So you have code. Let's say you're working for XYZ um, company, right? And you're their developer, maybe front end developer or back end developer or full stack developer. They're working for a company XYZ. Okay. Now you can be working on their code right on your system, but working on their code directly on your system is fine. But if you want people to collaborate with you to also work on the same code, how do you do that? Okay, how is that possible? Right now, that is possible with GitHub. Okay, it's possible with GitHub. GitHub allows you to Git allows you to push your code from your local repository to your GitHub account, and it allows you to pull codes from your online account um, down to your system. So the there's what is called repositories too on Git and on Git and GitHub, right? So repositories is just a fancy name for the places where your snapshots are saved, right? For a particular folder. So where those snapshots, everything about the snapshots, and also your files are, right? You can call that a repository. So that repository keeps track of all the snapshots. The repository is just like an album, what they call that stuff, where you put all your pictures in. Just it's like an album, so it keeps snapshots of your file right in that album. Just think about a repository like that, but it's something you don't need to really be concerned about. Git will always handle it well for you. Okay, so pulling is dragging or dragging, let's say just dragging or downloading your code from GitHub to Git. Pushing is like uploading your code from your Git, which is on your system, down to GitHub. Okay, more on that later on. Okay, so let's talk more. I hope you get it, Victor.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about JavaScript variables. Okay, so in your mathematics, everybody here in your mathematics, when you were doing mathematics, right? You used to say a is equals to 5. Abi, let's just use that as example. A is equals to 5, and then anywhere that you see a, you replace it by 5. Okay, so at that point, what do you think a is, right? A is a variable at that point, right? So a is a variable that traps the value of 5 in it. So anywhere that you see a, you just replace that a with the value of 5, right? Remember when we used to do maybe you're trying to do Pythagoras theorem, a squared is equals to, or c squared is equals to a squared plus b squared, like something like that, and then you substitute the value of a and b, and then you get c, and then you find the square root to get the correct answer of c. Okay, so in JavaScript, we would see how we can declare that. So variables are named values that can store any type of JavaScript value. So that means there are types of JavaScript, there are types, right? There are data types that JavaScript can accept, right? A variable can also be referred to as a named storage for data. Okay, so um, you can think of a variable as a carton, and then it has a value inside. So that carton can contain something, right? And that carton can be empty. You can create an empty carton. So think of a variable as kind of a carton somewhere, a virtual carton that you have in your RAM. And variables can be declared using var, let, and const. Okay, so I know to some people now it might seem that I'm speaking in tongues. So let me share my screen. Okay, I'll share my VS Code now. So you guys are going to see what I'm talking about. So you can also do this too. You can also do this, right? I hope you can see my VS Code. Though. Can
Yes,
you
we
guys see
can.
my VS Code? Okay, cool. So what you do now is just create, I'll delete all this, but just create a file and you can call it index.js. Okay. I'll delete all these other ones because I'm not using them. I just use them for illustration purpose. So I'll move them to trash. Okay. All right. So let me show you how to do that. First, we already know. I think let me make this a bit bigger because 14 is too small. Let me make it 20 so that it will be more bold. Okay. So let's say I can log out. Let me show you how to run this. I could log out hello world here, right? This console.log is used to before talking about variables, I want to like explain what this is. Console.log, because you're going to see it many times in your code. Console.log is a method, right? Or let's just say it's a function. It's a function, but the technical name for it is it's a method, and later on we'll see why it's called a method. But for now, just think about it as a command used to output what is it being given as an argument. So this hello world is an argument to, or it's, let's say, is a parameter, right, to this console.log, right? And then the way you run things on your the way you run your code on your VS Code, like the way you run your JavaScript on your VS Code, is you come to terminal, right? And then after clicking on terminal, you come and click on new terminal. So doing that is going to open up this part of your screen. Let me make it even bigger. So it's going to open this part of your screen for you to type out your code to run. I hope you guys can see a terminal here with /desktop/KodeCamp. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now let's say I want this to output on the terminal, right? After opening my terminal that way, I'll come here and type node. Remember, it's node that we are using to try to run this, okay? Because node is our runtime environment. Then you now write space and then the file name that you want to run. So in our case now, the name of that file is index.js. So I'll type node space index.js and I press enter. Okay, so we can see the output here. Hello world. It outputted it showed us the output of hello world, right? Just showed that. Now let's see how we can create variables, right? We can create variables with var, with the keyword, or with the reserved word var. var a should be equals to hello node.js beginners. Okay, we have that, right? And we use semicolon to line. But now semicolon is not required in JavaScript code. So whether you put it, whether you don't put it, it's going to like run your code well. Except maybe for some in some cases, right? But this is just to tell JavaScript that okay, this line of code terminates here, and whatever I'm going to write after this semicolon is a different command entirely. That command doesn't have to do with what I've written here. Okay, so let's say I want to, let me delete this quickly, right? We have a variable named a there, and I want to log out a, right? I want to show the value of a to the whole world. This is what I'll do. I'll then write console.log. Then I'll put in the value of that, the name of that variable, right? So I'll just write in a that way. Then I can come back here and write type node index.js and press enter. You see that it gives us the output again as hello node.js beginners. Okay, now a is the name of the variable, okay, while hello node.js beginner is the value for that particular variable. Okay, so anytime we refer to a, we are telling JavaScript find a variable where the name of that variable is a. Okay, when once this code runs and JavaScript sees that there is a variable with the value a, it is going to with the name a, it is going to print out the value of that particular variable. Okay, that's how that works. Now you can also use let. I could say let time of the day equals to I don't know, let time of the day equals to 2:58, right? I could also log that out. So if I say time of the day, right, as the variable, and I come back here and I run that, you see it shows or outputs 2:58. Now, some people are going to ask a question, even if they don't ask it on the comment section. Why is it that some things are in capital letters, some are in small letters, right? And why am I naming my variables like this, right? Now, there's what is called type case, right? You can on variable name case naming, the way you or the style you use to name your variables. Okay, there are different ways or styles to name your variables. For example, for people that have written HTML and CSS, remember that in your CSS, when you want to write background color, you do something like, you write something like this, background, then you write a short dash before color. Okay, this is a name casing, and this case is called the caveat case, right? The caveat name casing, right? Or case naming style. Okay, this is caveat case. So anything you have with this hyphen, right, as a variable name, it's going to it means anybody that comes to your code and reads it, or maybe looks through it, is going to know that okay, you're using caveat case throughout. Now, caveat case is not supported in JavaScript, right? You can't name your variables with hyphens like this. Okay, you can't name your variables with hyphens. You can't name your variables with asterisks. I'm going to come to that. Okay, so this style of using hyphen to separate the different words in your variable name is called caveat case, right? That case or that style of naming your variable. Now we have this other style where I write something like this: background underscore color. This style of naming is called snake case, right? This is mainly used by Python developers, right? This is accepted in JavaScript, so you can name your variables like background color, or like for example, if I want to name time of the day, right? I want to use a snake case to name my variable time of the day. I'll write something like this: time underscore of underscore day, then underscore day. This is a valid. So if I put let at the end, this is a valid variable name, right? So that's how that you name that. Then we also have um, camel case. So now camel case is what I'm using here. So if I want to use camel case to name my background color, I'll say background color with capital C. Okay. If I wanted to do the same thing, or if I want to do the same thing, or I already did this here, time of the day, right? That time of the day. So this is camel case. So camel, the rule of naming your variables with camel case is that the first word there has to be in small letters throughout, while the subsequent words there, their first letter or their initials have to be in capital letter. So this style is called camel case. Okay, there are still others. There is this one called Pascal case. So if I want to name maybe background color, I'll say something like this: background color. This is Pascal case. Okay, Pascal case. Every word, the initial of every word is going to be in capital letter, or let's say the first letter of every word is going to be in capital letter. Okay, so JavaScript makes use of camel case most times in all its methods, and also you have to follow suit. Okay, so if someone tells you create a variable name so and so with camel case, you know that this is the style you're going to use. If they said use snake case, which is mostly used in Python because Python is, and the name of the particular is snake, right? So you can use this, right? Cabet case is mainly used in CSS. All right. I hope that settles that. I hope there is no question. Okay. Okay. Someone asked, how did I direct my how did I direct my uh, terminal the um, to that particular folder? Okay. So I hope you guys can still see my screen. Okay, you guys can see my screen. Okay, this is how I do it. Okay, let me close this out. Let me close everything out for people that are not following. Okay, let me close this out. This is what I do. I go to file, I go to open folder. Okay, so what you do is you open the folder that you want to work with using VS Code. Okay, so when you click on open folder, you'll be presented with a box, right? So that box is going to show you the different folders. It is going to show you desktop documents, downloads, and the rest. Then you trace to where your folder is. If your folder is on desktop, you click on desktop. Then when you see your folder, don't double click on it. Just click on the folder and then click on select folder. There will be a button at the bottom called select folder. The select folder button. When once you click select folder, that select folder button, then it's going to open up that particular folder, right? It's going to open up that folder and then it's going to list out the content of that folder. If there is anything inside the folder, it's going to list it out here. Okay, I hope you guys understand what I'm explaining. Is there anybody that is
Yes, my
still
own.
confused?
No. I've done my own works like magic. Thank you.
Okay, so click there. Let's say maybe I already went to KodeCamp. So if I open KodeCamp, it's still going to open the same folder. All right, then when you're on this folder, if you want to see your terminal, you just click here on terminal and click on new terminal. So it's going to automatically go there. Okay. Then let's see the contents of our file. Okay. So we have that. Okay. Now I'm also going to talk about some rules to naming your variable. Okay. Some rules to naming your variable. First and foremost, your variable can't contain special characters. I can't do something like this. Let hello, then asterisk world. This is not a valid way of naming your variable. Your variable can't contain special characters like asterisks. It can't contain hash. It can't contain at. All those special characters. It can't contain bracket open or bracket close. And it can't contain space. So I can't say hello space what should be equals to hello. This is totally wrong. This is wrong. Okay. You can't do this. Your variable name cannot start with a number. So you can't say 5 and then hello world or 6 or 12 or maybe 100. Okay. But it can contain numbers. So if you say, if I say, maybe let's say first 500, first 500 is a valid name. If I come back, if I come try to log out first 500 and I come here and I type node space index.js, it is going to log out something for me because that is actually valid. Okay. All right. So okay. My terminal tax while it loads normal. Okay, I'm just checking to see if there's any question. Okay, so, Victor is asking, why do you skip a line to write your next line of code? Yeah, okay. Now, even if I don't skip any line, everything is going to run well. So node index.js, right? Everything runs well. Even if I put these two on the same line like that, and I come back and write node index.js, everything works well. But when you're writing code, right? The reason why I'm skipping one line is, or one line is that I want my code to be easily readable. Okay, I don't want it to be difficult for someone to look at my code and he can't make not really, let's say not make sense out of it, but he can't maybe find out, okay, this is where my code is stopping at. Imagine if I write all these things like this, or I wrote all of them in one line. Okay, everything is jam-packed and it's not really fine on the eyes, right? So that's the reason why I'm spacing it out. It doesn't have any effect on how it's going to run. Okay, even if I wrote everything on the same line, it's still going to run well. Okay, but I have to space them out for readability purpose. Okay, so we have time of the day, different. Then another thing we need to know about JavaScript is that JavaScript is case sensitive. So time of the day like this and writing maybe time of the day like this. If you try to execute this index.js, it's going to scream at you. It's going to tell you reference error because that's a reference error. Time of the day is not defined. Time of the day is not defined. Can you see? Why? But you would be like, why? It's time of the day here, but and it's supposed to output this one. The cases are not the same. O here is in small letters, O here is in capital letters, T here is in small letters, T here is in capital letter, D here is in capital letter, but D here is in small letter. So it won't understand what you're trying to do. Okay. So the best you have to do is you have to always follow your variable names, even with if you're using camel case, make sure it's camel case. That's why we have those cases, so that if you choose one to follow your code, make sure you follow it. But then JavaScript mostly uses camel case. All right, so I've said a lot already. Now, what is the difference between let, var, and const? I could also use const to declare a variable. Const hello should be equals to hello guys. All right, hello here. It's going to work. But then what is the difference between var, let, and const? Okay, here we go. Now, there is what is called declaring. Okay, first, another thing I want to talk about is comment, right? So anytime you comment a line of code, you can comment a single line of code doing this, putting double slash before that line. Now, what this is going to do is going to prevent the compiler from executing this particular line of code. Like for example, if I come back here and I execute Node.js, it's not going to print out anything because this particular line of code is commented, right? So this is how to do single line comments, right? If you want to do multiple line comments, let's say I have let hello equals to hello world, right? And let me just copy and paste this a couple of times. See, what I just did was Control C. I didn't highlight anything. I just put my cursor there, Control C, and I just immediately press Control V. That's why it's duplicating itself, kind of, right? Let's say I want to. You can actually comment the each of the lines of code one by one, like this. You see. So commenting one line doesn't affect the other line. You can see. Okay, but what if I want to comment a whole, like let's say 20 lines of code, or let's say I want to comment from this line down to this particular line, right? The simplest way to actually do it, let me remove this here. The simplest way to actually do it is to use asterisk forward slash asterisk, and then that is to open a multi-line comment. And then when you come to where you want the comments to stop, you do the opposite of what you did here, right? So use slash and asterisk to start the comment. To end it, you have to type asterisk and forward slash. Okay, so effectively from line 3 to line 9, you have commented everything, right? Line 10 is going to execute now. So if I come back here, and then we have a lot of things happening here. I want to clear out this terminal. So if you want to do that, you just type clear to clear it out. For Windows, I think it is CLS. I don't think it's the same as clear. If clear doesn't work, try CLS. I think it should be CLS. Okay. So let me execute that node index.js, enter. You see, it's only one that's printing, which is this particular one. The rest are in comments. Then let me also show you something else. Let's say you don't want to type this, right? You want a shortcut to actually comment. Let me remove that. Let me remove those two. You want to use a shortcut, a key combination to actually comment and uncomment a particular line of code. Let's say I am here and I want to comment line 3 alone. I will press my control and forward slash. That comments that particular line of code. If I want to uncomment it, right, I still press control and forward slash. So control forward slash, control forward slash, control forward slash, control forward slash. It is used to toggle between commenting a line and not commenting a line. Okay, so you can use that to comment the line. If you want to comment multiple line, you can choose the line you want to comment. Like I want to comment all that, and I use the same key combination, control and forward slash. You see, it comments the whole line. And if I want to uncomment those lines, I just press control and forward slash. You see, it's working like magic, right? It's commenting, uncommenting, commenting, uncommenting those lines. Okay, that's how you do that basically. Okay. Okay, so is there any other question? Okay, someone is asking, what do you type in the terminal to bring up the result? What? Okay, someone has answered that. Node then. No, so now, if the name of your file is not index.js, right? You would type node, then the the file name. And now also it's not really compulsory that you should type the file extension. So if I type node index and press enter, it still executes. Can you see? It executes. So whether you write the .js or not, if you skip the writing the .js, right, it is going to go into that folder and just search for index that is a JavaScript file, right? Index.js, right? It's going to search for it. So even if you just type node index, it will work well. Okay. So someone is saying, my terminal isn't giving me result. Okay, so why isn't your terminal giving you results? Right? What is it? What is the error your terminal is giving you? And that's by Insika Ebe saying, so my terminal isn't giving me results or results. Okay, so if it's not giving you a result, then that means that your desktop, right? Your VS Code is not pointing to the folder that you are working on. Okay, so if it's not pointed to that particular folder, just come here, click file, then go and click open folder. So once you click open folder, it's going to bring up a dialog, right? It's going to ask you which folder do you want to open. So you navigate to where your folder is and you choose that folder. Don't double click on the folder you want to open with VS Code, right? Just choose the folder. Once you choose the folder, go and click on select folder or open anyone. Select folder. It's always at the bottom of your of that dialog, right? So just choose the folder and go and click on select folder. Then once you click on select folder, it's going to present you with a screen without the terminal. It's going to look something like this. Then you go and come here to this ribbon. Then click on terminal, new terminal. It's going to then take you here, and then you can then do what you want to do. Node, index, enter, brings out. Okay. Okay, someone is asking how you can change your directory from terminal. If you're using Windows, you will use dir, okay? But if you're using Linux, you'll use cd. So cd, then if I want to get to maybe, if I want to leave this folder, I'll say cd dot dot slash and then enter. It's going to take me away from this folder, right? But now I'm inside, I'm in desktop, I'm not in the KodeCamp folder, so I've gone a folder backward. So if I want to enter desktop, right, if I'm on Linux, so I'll type cd KodeCamp, right? After typing code, I just press tab to make it automatically complete for me. But if you're on Windows, you type dir KodeCamp, if that's the name of the folder, like dir and then the folder name, okay? Node extension. I haven't used any node extension to run Node, right? I've not used any node extension. I'm just using the Node.js I installed. Okay, so that is what I expect that everybody should do. You should have the Node installed on your system. Okay, so we are here. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, what's the difference between let, const, and var, right? Now you can do this, right? You can just write let hello, right? So in this point, at this point, right, you have initialized a variable. Take note, when you say let something, let hello, you have initialized a variable, right? This variable is just like saying you've created an empty carton, right? But then you write on the body of the carton, hello, right? So the name of that carton is hello, but the carton doesn't contain any value, right? Then we want to put a value into that carton, right? We then say hello is equals to maybe, then let me use a number, 250, 250, right? Now, between when this code runs, right, it's going to first run hello, let hello. It's going to create that memory space. Then later on, you now say let hello should be equals to 250. So it's going to take this value and it's going to add it to 50 to the. It's going to take this 250 as a value and then give it to the hello, right? So hello will be the name of that variable. 250 will be the value. So at this point, what you've done is you have effectively assigned a value. Okay, you've initialized or you've created a variable named hello, right? I'm just using random words, right? Now now at this point uh, you assign a value of 250 to hello, to the hello variable. Let me take this to the next line. So I'm using tab to move in case you have any question, like how am I moving? Okay, so I've done that. And then now this assignment, why I said I have assigned a value is because before a didn't have a hello didn't have a value. So when once you do this, it's the same thing as saying hello should be equals to undefined, right? It doesn't have any value, right? But here you're saying hello now should be equals to 250. So this is the first time giving it in a value, right? Then if I come down here and say hello should cease from being 250 to being, let's say, 400, right? Let me use that for example. What I've effectively done here is I have reassigned the value of a. So a ceases from being 250 to being 400 here. So let me show you how this works. I'll log out A at this point. I'll log out A at this point. And then I'm also going to log out A at this point too. So let me clear my terminal. I hope my terminal is not too tiny for you guys to see.
It's okay, we can see.
Okay, cool. So someone is asking, why didn't you show all variables before you created using var, let, and const? Okay, why didn't it show variable? Show all variable. Okay,
Mr.
Mr.
Victor, can
D.
you let me ask, please? I just want to
Okay,
explain it further. Now, when
okay,
you had the time of the day, you put it, I think, 2:15 or thereabout. You created
okay.
another variable with let. But when you ran it
Uh-huh.
in the terminal, it was only
Hmm.
one of the values that were showing.
Okay,
That
that
was
is okay. That is because that was the only value I logged out. I didn't log out the other one. That's why I did not show. Do you
okay.
understand?
Yes, I do now.
So yeah, so if you don't log out, so this console.log is like telling Node, please can you print out this value I'm giving to you to the user to see. So if you don't tell the node to print out a particular value, okay, node is not going to print it out even if you've declared it. Imagine, let me comment all this. Let me comment all the console.log and run it node index. Nothing is going to print out. Okay, that's because node understands that there is a variable named hello. The variable had a value of 250 and then the value was reassigned the value to the value of 400. It understands that, but you've not told it to print it to the user. So if we print it to the user, right? If we use console.log to print it to the user and we run this again, node index. See, at first, hello is undefined. Hello has the value of undefined. So it doesn't have anything in it. It's just there. Okay. Then at this point now, when I said hello should be 250, then after that, I lock it out. So that's why you're seeing this 250 here. It's because of this point, right? Then I reassigned the value of hello from being 250 to being 400. And then I logged it out. So that's why you're seeing this point here, 400. Okay. So notice that your program starts from top to execute to the bottom. Can you see? From here, it goes down like sequentially. Okay, I hope someone is asking if I can increase the fonts here. I'm not sure about how that can be done. The font on my terminal. Um, I'm not sure how that is done. But I'll find out, and then in subsequent classes, the font here is going to be bigger. Okay, so but just bear with me in this class. Okay, so uh, let's go back to the slide. So I hope there is no question. Okay, I didn't explain about the difference between var, let, and const. Okay, I didn't explain that. So let me do that quickly. So okay, let me leave this here. Okay, let me leave that here. Let me first explain what is the difference between let and const. Now, let allows you to assign, reassign, and initialize, right? So let's say if you did something like this, let high equals to let's say um, let me just say KodeCamp, right? You've done two things here at the same time. You have initialized a variable and you've given that variable a value. You've assigned it a value immediately, right? So this is like saying, this is initializing and assigning at the same time, okay? You didn't do them one by one. Right, now you can't do that with const. So if I change this to const, it's already underlining hello. Because when we say something is a constant, remember pi is always 3.142 or 22/7, right? So pi is always constant, right? Pi will never change. Which other constants do we have in mathematics? There are others, although I can't remember all of them now. Okay. Um, Now, when you say const hello, what you're trying to say is you're trying to declare a constant. Now, a constant is a value that never changes, right? It's always going to remain that particular value. It doesn't change. It doesn't. It's just that value, right? For for as long as this program runs, it's going to have that value. Now, the reason why it is underlining this is that constants don't allow you to initialize them without giving them a value. Okay, so if I want to say hello should be equals to 250, I have to do it here on the same line. Okay, now there is also still going to be an issue. This is going to work. Hello of 250. If I call it, it's going to work. See, it prints out 250 at first, but after printing out 250, it's telling me something. Assign a value of this to hello, assignment to constant variable. Now, this happens because we are trying to change the value of hello from being, okay, from being 250 to being something else here and here. You see? So when something has, when you give, when you declare a constant variable, that constant has to always have that variable. You can't change the value of a constant variable. So I can't come back here and come and say hello should be something else. Okay. So hello is always going to be 250. And anytime I try to change the value of hello from being 250 to something else, it's not going to work. Okay. I hope you guys understand. So someone gave a recommendation on, okay, how to make this bigger. Okay. I hope that is not too big. Let me clear that. I hope my terminal is bigger for you guys to see.
Yeah, it's okay. We can see. Thank you.
Okay, better. Then I guess I'll need to reduce this one. Maybe 18. I think it's just too big. Okay, I guess that's okay. Okay, so we have that. So you know that now you know that the difference between let and const is that const always needs a value, right? When you're trying to initialize it, you must always assign it to a particular value. That's number one. And then number two, you can't change the value of a constant while your program is running. You can't change the value of a constant, right? I can only change that value here. I could say maybe 300 before I run it, right? Before I run the code. It's going to be 300, but if I try to reassign it or change its value, it's not going to work, okay? So let me delete all these parts. So no matter how many times I refer to 300, even if I refer to it twice, it's always going to give me the correct value, which is, sorry, no matter the number of times I refer to hello, hello is always going to give me 300, okay? All right. So then now, what is the difference between var and let? Okay, that is something we need to discuss now. Okay. So what is the difference between var and let? You can do something like var a is equals to now var allows you to redeclare a variable. Like for example, I could say var a should be equals to 200. And I can come back again and say the same var a should be equals to 500. And this is going to work perfectly well. So if I try to log out a here, and then I come and try to log out a again at this point, right? You see, I said var a is equals to 200 here, and it's logged out. And then I'm coming back to re-declare and reassign a value to a. So I say var a is equals to 500. So at this point, I I um let's say I initialize a with a value, but at this point I'm reinitializing reinitializing a, and I'm also giving it, or let's say redeclaring it with a new value and um, giving a variable a new value. Okay, so var allows me to reinitialize, right? I can read what I just reinitialized a, right? And I redeclared it. But you can't do this with let. If I say let a equals to 200, I cannot come here and say let a again equals to 500. If you try to run this, it's going to give you an error. It tells you that it asks you why are you trying to reinitialize. Okay, it's trying to ask you that, but it's telling you that you have an identifier a that has already been declared. So why are you trying to redeclare it or reinitialize it? Okay, so the only thing you can do is you can only reassign the value in let. You cannot reinitialize it. Okay, so that is just one, that is the main difference between var and let. And then there is another difference, but that difference we are going to see it when we start writing functions in JavaScript. Okay, we're going to see that the difference between var and let when we are writing function, because var is, just keep this in mind that let and const, they are block scope, uh, while var is function scoped, and we are going to understand that when we start writing functions. Okay, so so someone is asking, what is the work of let keyword? Okay, so let keyword is used to declare a variable, right? So you want to declare a variable in your JavaScript. So you can't just write the variable. Although if you do that, if you just write hello is equals to this, it will work, right? But when you use there's what is called use strict in JavaScript, right? Let me see if it is going to work here. Let me remove this and see. Right, a is equals to 200, a is equals to 500. But if I write use strict and come back here, you see the same thing I was able to write with that. So use strict is a command that you use to tell JavaScript, see, I understand that I want to write JavaScript, but I want that JavaScript, I don't want you to forgive the user for any mistake. he tries to make on JavaScript, right? Like forgetting when you forget to include the let keyword, right? If you forget to assign, maybe to declare a variable using the let keyword, right? If you use strict is not going to allow you do that, but right? But if you don't have use strict here, right, it's going to work perfectly well, right? It's going to work. But if I include use strict is just like saying be strict on the rules, right, for naming and for some other things in terms of JavaScript, like naming your variables and the rest, right? Be very strict. So that's what you can always use that use strict for. Okay, so someone is asking if he can. Someone is asking this question. Let me just show it to everyone. So someone is asking this. So can I log out like this? So passing two arguments, yes, definitely you can. But then passing two arguments, yes, it's going to log out the two values, right? Okay, if I do that here, if I say and then A again, it's going to log out 200, 200, but with a space in between them. So let me clear out my terminal, clear, then I'll come back and run that. So you see, 200, 200, but with a space in between it. But then under here, you see 500. So yes, you can pass in multiple arguments, okay? You can pass in multiple arguments to your log, right? You can log up multiple things, even if it's a string. Okay, these are numbers, right? I could do something like hi, uh, and it's going to actually work out perfectly well. Okay. Yes, someone is asking, is using use strict a good practice? Well, it depends on you. If you want to be strict, right? You don't want to forgive whoever is writing your code, right? Or if you don't want to, or let's say you don't want to um, make mistakes, right? Or you don't want to make some kind of mistakes and allow them slide, right? You can use strict so that it's not anytime you make that mistake, right? That maybe normally JavaScript would have ignored. JavaScript is not going, won't ignore it. JavaScript will scream at you and tell you, oh, yeah, you have made this mistake, you must go and correct it, right? So there are some things that would work without use strict, but when you say use strict, you're trying to say, whatever mistake, right? I'm trying to make, don't ignore it. Tell me that I have made this mistake, right? It's kind of strict, switching your JavaScript to being very, very strict on whatever you type. Okay. So I guess that I've done that. I've explained that well. If you have any question, just type it on the comment section. I hope everybody is following along, right? I just hope everyone is following. If you're not following, you can also tell me on the comment section. All right, so we have some examples here. Var A is equals to 20, var B is equals to, or let B is equals to 50, and then const C is equals to 500. And I've already talked about the difference between var, let, and const. So var can be declared, assigned, it can be redeclared, and it can be reassigned, right? But then let can be redeclared and it can be assigned a value. It can be reassigned. So when we say reassign, remember, reassign is like when you say let A equals to 500, you have declared a variable, right? Or let's say, sorry, when you say let A, then you put your semicolon, you've declared a variable. Then when you now say A should be equals to 200, you've assigned a value. Then if you now come back and say let A equals to 1000, so you see A was 200 before, but now you're saying it's 1000. So you effectively reassigned the value of A, right, in the let. Now const here, const can only be assigned, right? It can't be redeclared or reassigned. So you can only initialize and assign a value when you're using const. You can't reassign or redeclare a constant. Okay. So I talked about the difference between varlet and const. Okay, and then so there's a difference between var and let using block scope and the rest. We are going to see that when we start writing functions. Okay, so JavaScript data type, right, and then JavaScript object type, right. So we have different data types and we have different object types, right. Object is a kind of data type too, right? Okay, so we have string data type, we have number, we have big int, right? We have boolean, we have undefined, we have object symbol, and we have null. Okay, so under object, right? Object is a data type, and then we have object types. The object that is a data type has different types, right? So an array is a special kind of object. An object too is also a special kind of object, right? Date is also a special kind of object, right? So I'll just talk about arrays and objects. So an array is just a special kind of object that has its key as the index, right? Each value has an index, right? While an object deals with key value pair. I know you might not understand what I'm saying now. We are going to actually write code on what I'm talking about, maybe in a subsequent class. Okay, so with all this I've said, all right, I have come to the end of the class for today. So I hope you guys understand. Is there anybody that has any question? Someone is saying at the right hand side of your terminal screen, yours is showing bash. Okay. Okay, so someone wants me to explain how I started my interface. Okay, so launch VS Code, right? Launch VS Code, and when you launch VS Code, click on let me see, click on file. Okay, let me share that VS Code screen to you again so that you see it. Okay. All right, so while you're here, click on, while you launch your VS Code, right? Like for the very first time, your VS Code doesn't have any file or folder open. Just come and click on, but before doing this, just make sure you create an empty folder, right? Just create an empty folder somewhere that you're going to be using for your exercises. So you come here, after creating the empty folder, wherever I want to create it, maybe on the desktop or your documents or your downloads, anywhere. After creating that, come and click File. And after clicking on File here, click on Open Folder. When you click on Open Folder, you'll be presented with a dialog, right? Now, navigate to where you have your folder, right? The folder that you want to open, but don't double click on the folder that you want to open. Just click on it, and then after clicking on it, if you're on Windows, just check at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a button called Select Folder. Click that Select Folder. It's going to open the whole VS Code, that folder. It's going to open that folder on your VS Code, right? Then when it opens the folder on your VS Code, of course, you're not going to have, it's going to look like this, right? You're not going to have any terminal at the bottom, and maybe you might just have a screen like this. Okay, so if you don't have index.js, see a place to create it. So you can click here to create a new file. You can call it whatever I want to call it, but I call mine index.js, right? Then after creating index.js, right, you click on it to make it show at this other side of the screen, right, at the editor itself. Then if you want to launch your terminal, come and click here on terminal, then click on new terminal. Okay, when you click on new terminal, it will launch automatically with that particular folder that you want to work with. Okay, then there you have it. Now if you want to exit your terminal, see the number of terminals are open, right? I want to leave most of them. So I just want one bash. And Linux terminal is by default bash, a bash terminal, right? So I think on this will also work on Windows. If you want to exit your terminal, just type exit and press enter. So I've exited that one. I want to exit this one too. Just type exit and press enter. Also on this one, I want to exit it. So I'll type exit. Exit, then enter. So I have only one git bash remaining, right? I could run my code here. And then if you want to run your code, just type node. Node is the command you type first, right? Then space, and then the name of your file. And then it's optional. If you want to include the extension, you can include it. If you don't want to include it, it's fine. So you just write index and then press enter. It's going to launch, it's going to run your code for you. Okay. Someone is saying mine is telling me PowerShell failed. Okay. If yours is telling you PowerShell failed, then try to install Git Bash, right? Then after installing Git Bash, try to navigate to the folder for that Git Bash. Try to navigate to that folder, right? So let me show you how to navigate. Take for example, I just have a git bash, right, that is at the root, right? This place is like saying I am at the root of my system. Not really the root, at the home folder of my system. If I type ls, see, I'm at the home. So I could enter my desktop from here, my documents, my download, my pictures. I could enter any of those places from here, okay? So I want to change directory into my desktop. So I'll now type, so ls, wait, before you change directory, ls is used to list the content of your directory, okay? So after doing that, I see desktop there. I want to enter into my desktop. I'll now write cd, which is change directory. If you're on Windows, you type dir. So cd desktop. Okay. I want to see what's on my desktop, so I could use ls, but I already know what is on my desktop, right? I know what is on my desktop. I know that there's KodeCamp there on my desktop, so I'll just clear that. And then I'll say cd code. Then what I like using autocomplete. So if I press tab now, it's going to complete it for me. Then I press enter. I'm inside KodeCamp. If I type ls there, I can see what is inside there, which is just index.js. If I want to execute index.js, I just type node index.js. Okay, and then it is going to execute whatever I have there. Okay, so a lot of people having issues. Okay, so in Sika, I see that you're having a lot of issues. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to resolve it after the call. Okay, someone also is saying I'm having issues. Okay, what is the main issue you're having? DA cat. What is the main issue that you're having? Okay. So what is the issue? Okay, you've successfully opened the file and terminal, but you can't go further. Okay, have you tried typing the node, and do you have node installed? If you want to confirm if you have Node successfully installed. This is what you do. I hope you guys can still see my VS Code, right? Let me clear my screen. You type node, then you type dash dash version and enter. It's going to show you the version, right? So here I'm using version 16.14.0. Okay. So, but yours might be different. Doesn't really matter. It should be a higher version from this or this version. So for everybody that is having issue, we are definitely going to meet, right? We are going to meet because this call has it's really long. This particular class is really long, so we will meet after the class, and then you're going to share your screens, and then we are going to resolve every issue you're having with your screen. Okay. Okay, DACAT says it's using version 18.17.0. Okay, that's like a higher version. Okay, cool, cool, right. All right, so apart from the issues people are having there, I hope there's no other issue. So in the next class, we are going to really dive into each of these data type, right? That is going to be by next week, Tuesday. So come prepared, right? We are going to talk about strings, numbers, we'll talk about big integers, boolean, and we'll talk about undefined. And if there is still time, we'll talk about objects, okay? Then objects, we are going to see how we can use dates, we can use array, and then we can use objects too, right? Object is an object type. It's kind of fun. It's like it's recursive. Okay, so that will be by our next class. We are going to exhaust, or even if we don't reach objects, we might stop somewhere here at boolean. Okay, then the next class, which is next week Thursday, we can then continue to do the rest. Okay. So thank you very much for coming out in today's class. Okay, thanks a lot. I hope I'm going to. Okay, someone is asking, please, what's your username on Discord? Okay, so um, and my username is Victor Peter. I'll check it, and when once you come to the NodeJs this platform, right? Just type your question and I'll answer. My username is Victor underscore V, right? Let me type it out on the comment section. Okay, it is this VEEKTOR underscore V. Okay, let me send it down to all of you guys. So that's my username there on Discord. VEEKTOR underscore V. Yeah, and it's also my Twitter username. Okay, so right, so you can always use this to maybe chat me up, and then please don't bring the questions into my DM because I might have like 5 people asking me the same questions, right? And uh, instead of trying to answer the 5 people, why don't one person just ask it on our Node.js channel, right? And then I answer it once, and then everybody sees the question and then the answer, so that I won't keep answering a lot of DMs. Okay, so I guess that is far more better than like trying to DM me. Okay. All right. So with that said, we've come to the end of today's class, right? So I hope there is no question. I hope there's no question. Any question? Huh? Okay. So the the slide is going to be available soon, today, before today is over. And then people that actually wanted the curriculum, yes, that is also going to be available within today. So I'm sorry I didn't drop it yesterday as promised. Okay, so I'm actually going to drop it today. Okay. Um, so in the absence of any other question for now, okay, which channel do you drop the slides at? Because I didn't see the first one. Okay, uh, the name of the channel is NodeJS. That's just the name, just NodeJS. Like if so, wait, is there anybody here that is not part of the Node.js this thing? That's not part of the Node.js channel, because I am sure everybody that's on this call is part of the Node.js channel for KodeCamp 3.0. I don't mean there are community channels and there is KodeCamp 3.0 channels, right? So the Node.js channel is under the KodeCamp 3.0 channels. If you're not in that Node.js channel, then I can't find you, right? So you have to be there. Okay, someone is talking about assignments. Okay. All right. So basically, the assignment is just going to be to read about string and your number types, right? Just read about both of them, like read about the basics of string and the number types, and then I want you to explain the difference between const, let, and var, because I know that it might be a bit confusing for some of you. So explain that, and I'm going to also share the mode of submission, how you're going to do it, right? So okay, someone is saying I should type it. Okay, so I should type it on the call, right? So your assignments, okay, all right, the assignment would be to read about string and number data type. Then that's one. Then that one, just read about it, and I'll just ask someone to maybe try to explain what you read on the live class. Then the one you're going to actually submit is what is the difference between let, const, and var, right? So this particular one, you're going to use Microsoft Office to write it out. I know after this assignment, I'm not sure there's going to be any other assignments you're going to use Microsoft Office to try and write to submit, right? Every other one would either be you sending your code to me to Mac, or you're going to push it to GitHub and then share me the repository link. And then definitely I'm going to show you guys how to push and pull code from GitHub, right? And then how to use Git. Okay, I'm going to show that too. And then that's also going to happen in our next class, so that nobody will have the excuse that, oh, I don't have assignment. Sorry, I didn't sign up on GitHub and the rest, or I don't know how to use GitHub. Okay. All right. So that's your assignment. Make sure you submit it, right? So I don't know. The deadline is going to be before the next class. I'll drop the deadline. Okay, I'll drop it online. All right. So I hope there's no other question. I hope there's no other question. I just hope there's no other question. All right. So thank you for joining this class. Thank you for joining. Where are we to submit it? Yes, it's going. You're going to submit the links, but I'll give you a form where you're going to actually submit those links. I think we are going to use Airtable, okay, or Google Sheets. I'm not sure yet, but I'll communicate that to you. Okay, someone asked if this can be done on Replit too. Okay, yes, definitely. Right? You can also do this at the you can also do this on Replit. It's possible, right? Just follow what I did the other time. I think I should just show you what I did, right? Um, Let me show you how to do it on Replit. So Replit.com, create Replit, whatever they give me. I don't want to know what's new, but that's fine. Just call it NodeJs. Whatever they give me as a name, create repo, and then what did they give me here? So I could say let a equals to 20, right? Then console.log a. And when once I click on run, it's going to output 20. Okay. So even if I do, if I pass the double argument, it's going to understand it and then print out the results. Okay. So whatever we run in this class, whatever code we've run in this class, we can also run it on Replit. Okay. Okay. I just hope there's no other question. All right. Okay, and yes, you will be great backend developers at the end. Yes, definitely. That is the goal. My goal is to make sure that all of you graduate, right? All of you make it to the end and graduate. So if there's anything that's going to hinder you from graduating, try to communicate it or try to solve it, okay? I'm going to make this class as friendly as possible and as fast to as possible. Okay. All right. So see you guys next week Tuesday. But then we are also going to be chatting on the Discord group more often. Okay. All right. So bye bye. Thanks for coming.